Welcome, everyone. It's straight up at 6 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and start. Welcome to the Wednesday, June 26, 2024, formal meeting of the Iowa City Planning and Zoning Commission. For purposes of attendance, if we could note that Commissioners Wade, Quellhorst, Hench, Craig, and Townsend are present. The next item on the agenda is public discussion of any item not on the agenda. If there's anybody present in the public who would like to address the commission for something that's not on tonight's agenda, now is your opportunity. Seeing no one coming up to the podium, we'll go on to item number 4. This is case number REZ 24-0004. The location is 1215 Camp Cardinal Road. This is an application for a rezoning of approximately 5.01 acres of land from interim development single-family residential zone to low-density single-family residential zone. Ann.
Thank you, Chair. Members of the Commission, Ann Russett with Neighborhood Development Services. As the Chair mentioned, this is a proposed rezoning to RS5 for the property at 1215 Camp Cardinal Road. Here's an aerial of the property. It's about 5 acres in size. Here's the zoning map. The land to the north and to the west is actually in the city of Coralville. To the north, it's an open space area, and to the west, it's Borlaug Elementary. To the east, it's the city of Iowa City, and the land is the properties where you see the single-family homes that's zoned RS5 with a planned development overlay. In terms of background, this property was subdivided in 1984. It's the Clear Creek subdivision. And then in 1989, it was rezoned to interim development single family, its current zoning designation, from interim development office and research park. The staff report at that time noted that it was more appropriate for residential uses in this area rather than future office and research park uses. At this time, the owner seeks a rezoning to RS5, which is the low density single family residential zone. Based on our conversations with the applicant and their representative, they have indicated that they would like to build one additional home on the property, which does require rezoning. If more than one additional home were proposed, they would need to go through the subdivision process, so that would come back to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Here's a few photographs of the property. There is one existing home, and you can see the garage in the back on the property. Here's another image of the house, and this is kind of a view from the northwest. As you go further north on the property, there's more kind of woodland and sloped areas and ravine. Here's the rezoning exhibit. And in terms of the current zoning designation, the interim development single family, this is a zone that's used to provide areas of managed growth. Agricultural, like plant-based agriculture, is a permitted land use in this zone. You oftentimes see this at the edges of our community, areas that haven't been developed yet and that are still continued to be farmed. IDRS does allow detached single-family dwellings, but it requires a minimum of 5 acres. And since this site is 5 acres in size and there's already an existing home, the current zoning designation wouldn't allow an additional home on the property. So the proposal is to rezone it to RS5. And that zoning designation does allow detached single-family homes. The minimum lot size is 6,000 square feet. In terms of the general development approval criteria, we look at consistency with the comprehensive plan and the compatibility with the existing neighborhood character. The future land use map of the comprehensive plan identifies this area as appropriate for residential land uses at a density of 2 to 8 dwelling units per acre. And there's also policies in our comprehensive plan that talk about ensuring infill development is compatible and complementary to the surrounding neighborhood, as well as policies that support infill development. In terms of compatibility with the existing neighborhood, this is kind of an aerial that's zoomed out a little bit more so you can see more of that area on the west side of Iowa City. To the east, there is an existing single-family neighborhood, and to the south, there is as well. Borlaug Elementary School is directly to the west of the property, but as you go further west, there's more single-family. to the west and to the south. And then, as I mentioned earlier, to the north is the Rotary Camp Park, which is maintained by the city of Coralville.
Where on this map is the Coralville, Iowa City border?
So that's the green line, if you can see the green line.
So this piece really is sort of
This,
by itself in Iowa City.
yeah, this is all Coralville over here. So the school's in Coralville, this housing development's in Coralville. Everything south of Kennedy Parkway is in the city of Iowa City. Everything east of Camp Cardinal Road is city of Iowa City except for this property. Yeah, so it's just a little notch.
Bizarre.
Yeah. In terms of transportation, access, and utilities, the property does have access off of Camp Cardinal Road, which connects to Kennedy Parkway to the south. There's currently no sidewalk on the property, so staff is recommending a condition that the owner construct an 8-foot wide sidewalk as well as curb ramps that connect to the east to the existing development. The typical sidewalk width is 5 feet, so the city would pay for that over width, that additional 3 feet. Sanitary sewer and water lines exist within the Camp Cardinal right-of-way, and access to these lines would be necessary for any development. The staff is also recommending a condition that the owner demonstrate the ability to access city utilities. The main concern that Public Works has is that even though there's water and sewer within the Camp Cardinal right-of-way, because of all of these sensitive areas, they just want to make sure that those service lines can be extended to wherever a new house is proposed, especially if they're just going to be building one more home that requires a building permit. Obviously, with the building permit, they'll need to demonstrate that they can access those utilities. But due to those sensitive features, we're just requesting that that be verified as part of that process. Also, there is an interest by the city of Coralville to vacate the Camp Cardinal Road right-of-way to the north of the property. So let me go back to this map here. So Camp Cardinal Road, if you've ever been on Camp Cardinal Road back here, it eventually connects to Camp Cardinal Boulevard further north. The city of Coralville would like to vacate this right-of-way, which would require that a turnaround is built for any cars that head north on Camp Cardinal Road, so they have the ability to turn around and go back south. Due to that interest by the city of Coralville, we're recommending that the property owner dedicate some right-of-way that would allow the city to build that turnaround at a future date. And this is an exhibit here showing about the amount of right-of-way that would potentially be needed. Public Works says that this is the most that would be needed, and they may need less than that, but this is about 5,000 square feet. In terms of sensitive areas, there are sensitive features on the property. However, a rezoning does not trigger the need for a sensitive areas development plan. If the owner chooses to move forward with the subdivision in the future, that's the point at which the city would require a sensitive areas development plan. Staff has received one email in opposition to the rezoning. I forwarded that to the commission, and there's printouts in front of you. And then in terms of the timeline, upon a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission, the City Council would be setting a public hearing at their July 16th meeting, and the public hearing would be anticipated to be at City Council on August 6th. So staff is recommending approval of REZ 240004, a proposal to rezone approximately 5.01 acres of land at 1215 Camp Cardinal Road from IDRS zone to RS5 zone, subject to 3 conditions. 1, prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the owner construct an 8-foot wide sidewalk, as well as install curb ramps to connect the sidewalk to the east side of Camp Cardinal Road. And again, the city would pay for that over width of the cost of the 8-foot wide sidewalk. And dedication to the city without compensation of some additional right-of-way along Camp Cardinal Road to accommodate that future turnaround. And then prior to issuance of a building permit, demonstration that access to city utilities can be provided. So with that, I'll turn it back to the chair.
All right, thank you, Ann. Are there any questions for staff on this presentation? Scott?
Yeah, thank you very much for a detailed and thoughtful presentation as always. I was curious about staff's justification for the proposed conditions. In particular, I think the turnabout and sidewalk are a great idea, but I'm wondering if they're connected to what the applicant is asking for. It seems like they want to rezone to add a single house, which wouldn't seem to add too much traffic. And so I'm wondering if it is justified to, ask them to incur the costs of those improvements.
Yeah, staff feels that the additional right-of-way is a pretty common request that we get at the time of a rezoning. So we are asking for it at this time as well. And it's understood, I see your point that typically we're looking at larger development projects that probably result in more traffic impacts than what's proposed here. For the pedestrian sidewalk, we do feel that is really important. Even if they did come forward and with a building permit, we could require a sidewalk at that point. It's in our regulations to require a sidewalk for even if it's a single-family home or a duplex, something that doesn't require site plan review. Since we're at the rezoning stage, we're recommending that, and I actually didn't clarify this, so let me back up and we're recommending that the sidewalk not be the full frontage of the property, but be from the southern property line to the existing driveway. And since this is an existing 8-foot wide sidewalk here, we would like to see that 8-foot wide sidewalk extended. There is an existing gap here between, I don't know if you can see that very well, but the sidewalk ends about right here. So there will be a gap between the sidewalk that we're proposing they build and that existing sidewalk. But there's also an elementary school there. There is a trail along Camp Cardinal Boulevard that gets used quite a bit. We would like to see that pedestrian infrastructure built out.
And is there a sidewalk currently on the other side of the street?
There is.
And then one other question. So I noticed that you mentioned some sensitive features in the plot of land, and I think you mentioned that a sensitive area plan is not required as long as it's not going to be subdivided. But I'm wondering if there's any sort of precedent or mechanism for conducting some sort of environmental review to make sure that the building doesn't cause any environmental damage or concern.
Yeah, I think that's something that we could look at the building permit stage. Typically, single-family homes that don't impact more than 20,000 square feet are exempt from our sensitive areas ordinance. There is.
But how do you figure, was my question too, is about the sensitive areas. I mean, this is obviously more than 20,000 square feet.
Yeah, but the impacts might not be 20,000 square feet. So if they're proposing a home in this area here, which is outside of the wooded area, outside of the sloped area, it wouldn't trigger any type of sensitive areas review.
And how would that review occur if that was conducted as part of the building permit process?
Well, I think, our sensitive areas ordinance says that what triggers the review of a sensitive areas development plan is an OPD rezoning or a subdivision, which isn't being proposed at this time. If they came forward with a building permit and wanted to, tear down the trees or impact the stream, I'm not even sure we would have the ability to stop that because they're not proposing a subdivision or a OPD rezoning. They're just building one home.
But why isn't it a subdivision when there's already one home there? They're building a second home.
Because they're not splitting the property. They're not creating any additional lots.
Not at this stage, but they might in the future, right?
They could potentially, but if they just want to build one home, like they have suggested to staff, they just want to build one more home, they wouldn't need it to be, they wouldn't need to come forward with this subdivision.
But if it was a subdivision, it would for sure
Yes,
involve-
then we would need a sensitive areas development plan, yes.
I mean, they could do like an administrative lot split, right? I mean, this has been subdivided before. You couldn't have two principal uses on the existing lot, right?
It has been subdivided before, and you can see here, here's parcel B, and this is parcel A. So this parcel does not have a home on it. The home's down here.
So
You could build on parcel A. The issue is that the IDRS zoning requires a 5-acre lot, and parcel A is less than 5 acres in size.
So I think in the past, we've permitted like conditional rezonings, for example, and required things like preservation of trees or other environmental features. Does staff feel like there's any, viable way to do something similar here?
Yeah, if the commission wants to make a recommendation on adding an additional condition like that limits the impacts, that's something that could be considered.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, the key to imposing conditions is identifying the public need being created by this rezoning. So as you think about whether the recommended conditions are appropriate or any additional conditions, that's the standard to keep in mind.
Can the public need be that we're trying to protect sensitive areas? I mean, to me, that's a public need, but
Yeah.
if we have an ordinance and it right now isn't applying,
I think that would be a reasonable condition
okay.
to impose.
Any further questions for staff on this application? Okay, we'll come to the hearing portion of this. This is a public hearing. If we'll start out with the applicant or the applicant's representative. Just come forward and state your name, make sure you sign in.
Lacey Stutzman with MMS Consultants. Let me get this down first or I will forget. So one thing I did want to maybe clarify here, just so there was no miscommunication. So like Ann was saying, there's 3 separate parcels here. So the existing home is on its own parcel or tract. And right, he's rezoning all of it just because we're spending the money to go through the process. We might as well take it out of that ID, that interim development zoning, and put it into an RS zoning for future planning down the road. If they go to sell, it's just beneficial for them and it matches the adjacent zoning. We're also working on an access easement, so he's going to use the same driveway entrance off of Camp Cardinal Road. I've spoken with Public Works and Engineering about a little bit of a concern on their connections, proper connections to the public infrastructure running through Camp Cardinal Road. So we've already kind of had that conversation. We've also passed that along to his builder, so when he does go to potentially build a house in the future, that's being accounted for. Sensitive areas wise, the intent is to build one additional house on that flat, kind of open grassy area. So we did look at the sensitive features just to do our due diligence on that. So you've got woodlands, you've got a ravine, and you've got some pretty steep slopes. So he's not intentionally proposing to build a house or to impact any of those. I understand your guys' concerns, but it's also just really not feasible or cost effective to try to impact any of those by any means. I think other than that, Anne laid it out really nicely. Again, that single-family home, I think we can see from the right-of-way exhibit, that would take far more of these sensitive features than I think what he's proposing, which would be none. So I'm here, and he is also here if you have any more specific questions for us.
Okay. So have you tentatively identified the location where you're going to place the house?
Not,
Yeah, not really.
You'll have to wait, sir. Just wait till Lacey's done, and then we'll have you come up. All right, thank you very much.
so not specifically, but kind of in that grassy area on parcel A.
Okay.
Within that.
And I think it's pretty obvious, as several commissioners have some concern about sensitive areas, and maybe you won't be able to speak to that, maybe the owner will, but if you'd comply essentially with the slope issues for sensitive slopes, and then for trees, protection of trees. I don't remember what the percentage of trees that can be removed under sensitive areas, but it seems pretty generous, actually. I think we need to address that, so.
Yeah, and so we looked at it in the light of if this was going to be taken as a full, if we're going to do an OPD, something to that effect of like a level 1 sensitive areas. And I think he doesn't, woodland-wise, and I don't want to misquote the code, so just take this with a grain of salt, but I believe it's under 2 acres makes it a grove of trees as opposed to a sensitive feature. Or it makes it downgrades it to some degree of, I don't know if impacts are still regulated as heavily as when you see something like a large subdivision development come through to that effect. And then again, the slopes, I think those are kind of just across the board, though you're allowed a certain percentage of impacts. So even if we went through the whole, he would still be allowable to some impacts if we're not gonna change maybe those thresholds of impact or those regulations specifically.
Because my presumption is it would not be beneficial for your client, because if this ever wants to be subdivided in the future, to do a wholesale impingement of the sensitive areas that are there now.
No, ideally not, but I also don't think that he would go through the trouble of building a single-family home on this secluded lot back in, that's already got a bunch of sensitive features to then try to potentially resell.
Yeah, I just want us to air this thoroughly so we're all on the same page where we are on this.
Certainly.
Questions for Lacey? And Lacey, do you have anything else for us?
How does
don't-
it, how does it work with the single driveway, which is, I'm thinking about, okay, there's 2 parcels here. I mean, whether it's going to be owned by the same person or a different person in the future, I assume the properties could change hands, and there could be 2 different owners of these 2 houses. But one owner, do they have an easement to use that driveway?
Yeah, so we're working, it's already actually drafted, but it's a private agreement, not dictated under this rezoning, but it would be a private access agreement between where it lands the property that owns it and then the other property that it is mutual beneficial. They'll have maintenance agreement and all that. That's pretty standard and typical. So that way, when it does change hands eventually, in however many years, that both parties are protected to continue to use that access, and it mitigates impacts to the sensitive areas, right? Then we're not trying to put in a second driveway onto Camp Cardinal Road. That would, ideally, with the way that those property lines are slated, would have to impact sensitive features.
I have one quick additional question for you. Does the applicant have any position on staff's proposed conditions to add the turnabout and sidewalk?
I will let him speak on that specifically, if that's okay with you.
Yep.
Do you have anything else for us, Lacey?
I don't think I have anything else to add.
Billy? Chad? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, sir. If you just state your name and sign in, please.
Matt Kane. Let me sign in here. So do I answer that question first?
Sure.
Not particularly. We don't really have any concerns about that turnaround. I suspect when they get in there and look at it, that's a pretty steep ravine. They may not go as far as they want, but if that's what they need, that's what they need. That's a kind of a part of the land. The only question on the sidewalk I have is because there is this gigantic gap, no, I shouldn't say gigantic, but there's a big gap between the Coralville sidewalk and where our line is. There's essentially a sidewalk to nowhere then that's just on our side. So I guess my only thought there would be is once Coralville finishes, then we'd put the sidewalk in. So rather than us put a sidewalk in that's to nowhere until it connects, that'd be my only thought. But also if that's a big deal, we'll put the sidewalk in. Not something that we're super concerned about.
Thank you.
The siding of the house.
Yeah, we fully intend to put it up in the flat area, and we don't want to touch any of those trees.
Okay.
That's kind of why we bought the lot. We like the trees.
Okay.
I don't want to say we wouldn't touch any of them, depending, but we want to stay as far away from those trees as we can and put it.
And since we don't have a topographic map, is that pretty level through there?
Yep.
I was up there, but I can't walk on private property with.
Yeah, no, it's, so I guess that screenshot doesn't show it. If you look at it kind of like online, there's a grassy area that's very flat. and that's where the house will go.
And
Yeah,
what-
see, there you can see that, it's all.
And what's there right now, just scrub?
Just grass, yep. Just, it's like wildflowers.
But it's
There's-
not prairie or anything, it's just scrub whatever's growing up
Yep.
there?
Yeah, the first half of it's all mowed flat, just regular grass, and then there's some wildflowers, and the prior owner had mowed some trails through that, and we just did the same thing. We just keep it
I
up.
apologize for my misstatement, that's topographic there, so
It's probably hard to see, so.
I didn't even notice that before, and I always look for that, so, sorry.
I don't think we have this one.
Thank you.
I was going to say, sometimes they sneak things
Okay.
in on us.
And then Matt, on Camp Cardinal Road, this is simply just for my edification. I presume for the reasons Corville wants to vacate that is because how steep that is on the north end.
Yeah. I
Is
would-
that your understanding?
I would
too,
assume
or-
so. Yeah,
Okay.
so we live on Meadowlark Drive, so we live in that subdivision away from this. In the winter, you can't go down that road.
No.
Well, you can, but you're gonna slide. Yeah.
All right. Any more questions for Matt? Thank you, sir. Do you have anything else for us?
Nope.
All right. This is a public hearing. Is there anybody else who would like to address the commission on this application? Second call or second time around for anybody that's already spoken? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. Can we have a motion on this so we can discuss it?
Motion approved.
Motion by Wade,
Second,
second by Craig. Discussion?
why I'm concerned about the sensitive areas, and if there was some language that could be added, that a review would be included with the, I totally appreciate what you've said, and I know that that's what you mean to happen, and I just think it's our duty to worry a little bit about that, and I don't know what kind of appropriate language that would be, but,
Let's see. Anything else?
no,
Chad, you're seconded, so you get to go next.
I seconded it.
Oh,
And I
otherwise,
started talking.
Beat you to it.
You go first.
I'm comfortable with approving it as is. I think we need to continue to embrace our builder community. I think it's reasonable to trust that they're going to build it on the high side of the lot. It makes sense from a development. I don't know if we need to add additional requirements. I do have a question. I don't know if I can ask this of staff. This has come up before. Can we do a dependency on the sidewalk? Because we've had other cases where there has not been a connecting sidewalk, and there's been kind of a sidewalk to nowhere.
I presume the sidewalk could go in once it's poured there, because now there'll be reason to connect it.
Yeah.
But,
Depending on-
we got missing segments all throughout the city.
Right.
And so hopefully those,
Hopefully the school district fills it in.
yeah. So, I guess that's my answer.
If everybody waits till everybody else goes, then you get no sidewalks.
Yeah.
you
It's a
know,
little-
so- Yeah.
Push to get it completed when you say, look, this person did it. My phone's talking, my watch is talking to me.
On this application, normally, since I'm entering my 10th year on this commission, I've learned to be not very trusting of what people say, but I don't see any warning signals, given that the topographic map makes this look like a perfect location to put it, that there's nothing there already, and the person who owns the property who's going to be building this lives in the neighborhood. I have pretty good confidence that they won't tell us they're going to site it in this location and do something else. Of course, there's nothing else we can do about it if they do something else, unless we put a condition in there. But I just don't feel it's necessary in this time, but I wouldn't have a stroke if somebody insisted on it.
And I guess all I have to say is there's so much building going on in that area that we don't question the big builders. We have a single lot and one home that now we're questioning all of these things. So I guess my concern is that we're not giving more of these
Yeah.
concerns to the big builders that are cutting down all of the nice trees. and-
That's probably true, because I think when
So-
we received the letter of opposition, that just sort of.
Well,
piqued
but the
our-
big builder would have to follow the sensitive areas ordinance because they would be building
But they're still
They would
cutting
have
down a
multiple
lot
lots.
more than this one
Well, I mean,
single
that's
home would be.
development. I-
Yeah, because I think that
Down.
is true. People don't realize in the sensitive areas ordinance, they're allowed to take out quite a number of
Yeah.
trees.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually
Oh.
pretty dramatic in my mind.
I cut down 6 trees to build my house, I know.
But when
So-
you look at what's been going up in that area, the apartments and the condos, and, which was all trees, sensitive area trees before, and now we're concerned about this one home, I guess, I just have a problem with that.
Yeah, I think I'm inclined to agree. If anything, having a single home on this property seems to me like it's probably beneficial for environmental preservation because the rest of the property is unlikely to be developed. I also give some deference to staff. Clearly, you've evaluated this project and determined that environmental conditions are not necessary or preferable. And so, I'm concerned about the environment, but I also don't want to tie a private project up in a bunch of red tape and, cause somebody unnecessary time and expense. So I would be inclined to approve this with the conditions recommended by staff. And as for the sidewalk, I would support the sidewalk condition in particular because the applicant didn't seem, terribly concerned about it. And, I think that introducing a dependency just makes this fairly complicated for something that ought to be a relatively low expense project.
Further discussion from anyone?
And for me.
Seeing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, the motion is approved 5-0. Thank you. Next item up, it'd be item number 5, case number REZ 24-0005. Location is 2255 North Dubuque Road. This is an application for a rezoning of approximately 7.0 acres of land from Office Research Park Zone to Neighborhood Public Zone. Ann.
Thank you, Chair. This is an application from the Iowa City Community School District. And here's an aerial of the site. It's about 7 acres. It's off of North Dubuque Road. Let's look at the zoning map here. So the ACT campus is to the northeast of the site. The school district purchased this building from ACT. To the south, you have Oak Knoll East, the 3 multifamily buildings. And then most of the area to the west over here and to the east kind of remains undeveloped. This property was annexed into Iowa City in the late 60s, early 70s, and as I mentioned, the Iowa City Community School District recently purchased it. They would like to use it for administrative offices and some educational facilities, and so the school district seeks to rezone this to P1 for a couple reasons. One, to demonstrate that it is a publicly owned site, but also they want to have educational facilities, and the OPR, the existing zoning, does not allow educational facilities as a land use. Here's a few photographs of the site. Just speaking of trees, it's actually a very beautiful property with all these trees in front of it. Here's a picture of the building and then a picture from the front. Here's the rezoning exhibit. So again, the current zoning is ORP. It generally allows office-type uses, but again, educational facilities are not allowed. The neighborhood public zone, which is being proposed, is used to reference public ownership. Examples are schools, parks, police and fire stations, and other civic buildings that are controlled by local governments or the Iowa City Community School District. So in terms of general development criteria, the comprehensive plan does show this as Office Research Development Center in terms of the land use. However, there is part of the plan's vision shows that the city should encourage and support collaborative efforts with the school district and other jurisdictions for mutual benefit of all communities. So we feel this rezoning is in line with the comprehensive plan. In terms of compatibility with the existing character, The land to the northeast and west is all owned by ACT. Most of the area that's developed is the ACT campus, except for to the south where it's the multifamily, it's Oak Knoll East. The school district plans to reuse the existing building. And generally, public facilities are compatible with office uses, residential uses. I mean, think about city facilities, the school district school, their current administration building on North Dodge. So in terms of next step, this will have to go to the city council after a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission. We anticipate that the city council will set a public hearing on July 16th, and that public hearing would be August 6th. And staff is recommending approval of REZ 24-0005, a proposal to rezone the 7 acres at 2255 North Dubuque Road from Office Research Park Zone to Neighborhood Public Zones. And staff is not recommending any conditions with this rezoning.
All right, thank you, Ann. Any questions for staff on this application?
I have one. Can you tell me what is allowed under educational facilities?
So that would be basically public schools. There's also public or private schools. And then that's considered a general educational facility. We also have specialized educational facilities as a land use. That would be things like kind of specialized educational training, like a Prusel School of Music, a dance studio, that type of thing. But this would be considered a general educational facility.
So their plan is to redo the current building into the new offices for the Iowa City.
Yeah, and I
School
think
District.
they're currently using the space as offices, but they plan to incorporate some classroom space as well.
Are they also planning to build additional units on that space?
I don't think any additions are proposed at this time, but it could be possible.
Okay, because it didn't say.
Any further questions? All right, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. We'll start off with the applicant or the applicant's representative.
Hi, Brock Heller with MMS Consultants. So the proposal to rezone is taking into account renovations of the existing space. There's going to be predominantly office areas, but part of the architect's plans, as well as the school district's intention, is to incorporate some classrooms. I'm not sure at this time what grades or types of classrooms necessarily are being proposed, but that would be part of future discussions.
But at this time, there's no intention of expanding the footprint of the building.
There's a FEMA shelter basement addition that's below grade that will take place in the rear of the building.
Is that just a tornado shelter?
Yeah, and that's part of,
Yeah.
if it's going to be a classroom space for safety purposes of having that FEMA rated shelter. It has to hold the entire weight of the building if it were to collapse, so that's partially why it is an addition, and it's not a space that's being designated within the current basement because that's not rated for that FEMA rating. So.
Susan?
I was just going to say, I did some volunteer work for the school district, and I spent some time in that basement, and it felt pretty FEMA safe to me. It's like, whoa, down here in the caverns.
see.
Any questions for Brock from commissioners? Anything else, sir?
Nope, that's all.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this application? Seeing no one, second call. No one's come to the podium. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Can I have a motion on this application?
So moved.
Motion by Townsend. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Quellhorst. Discussion?
This addition that has, well, addition, this shelter, so to speak, that has to be built behind the building, will that have to come back to us, or do they need anything special for that?
No, it would just be site plan and
Okay.
building permits, which is just reviewed by staff.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this is a great use of space that's no longer needed as an office park, and it seems wholly consistent with the surrounding area. So I'm all for it.
Chad? Further discussion?
Just that it's nice to see a building being reworked as
That's
opposed to
right.
torn down and
Yes.
rebuilt, so
So,
kudos.
no further discussion, we'll call the question. All those in favor of this application signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, the motion is approved 5-0. Thank you. Next item up, consideration of meeting minutes from May 1, 2024. Are there any major additions or corrections to those minutes?
None for me.
On the last page of the minutes, I'd like to commend all the commissioners, because each commissioner only has one absence of all the 6 current commissioners, because Commissioner Padron is no longer with us. So that's actually pretty commendable. So thank you, everybody, for doing that. I had higher expectations for perfect attendance.
But mine is going to drop off soon.
So a motion for approval?
So moved.
Motion by Townsend, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Wade. Discussion? All those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, motion is approved, 5-0. Next item up, planning and zoning information. Ann?
Do you want to
for
go
the
first,
good
Sarah?
news.
I have a few items.
Oh, sure. This will be my last P and Z meeting. Yeah, I have resigned to take care of my family, and
You didn't
it's
ask my
effective
permission.
tomorrow.
Oh, we're losing you?
Yeah, I'll still be around, but yes, I'm not sure. Liz Craig, I think, has come to a few meetings, or Eric Gors, Sue Dulick might come. I'm not sure exactly who you're going to get next, but
We're going to miss you.
it's been 17 years, so it's a major change for me, but
I want
That's
to
what we
publicly
decided to
state,
do.
so everybody can know how much I appreciate what you've done.
Oh.
We haven't always been the best clients. I mean,
Is that true?
well, a lot of this stuff's
She's
very
been the best
confusing for us,
attorney.
but you've been the best attorney, and I really appreciate your wisdom, and you've kept us out of trouble, and you haven't made us feel silly, and I appreciate that, so thank you
Yeah.
very much.
well, I appreciate all of your dedication to bettering our community. I think it's great, so thank you.
Best of luck.
Yeah, thank you, and best of luck.
Thanks.
Ann,
Okay.
you better not have any announcements.
I know, we're starting with the sad news first. NDS is going to miss Sarah a lot. I feel really lucky to have worked with her the past 5 years, so. We have some good news, 3 pieces of good news. The Poly Eyes landmark rezoning has been approved. There is no P and Z commission meeting next Wednesday. So take that off your calendar, so no meeting on July 3rd. And also, I sent an email out earlier today to the commissioners, if you may have saw it, but the city received a $3.7 million grant from HUD for the pro-housing grant application that we submitted late last year. We are very excited. And so there's going to be a big, event here tomorrow at 1:30. HUD's going to be here, the mayor's going to be here, and there was a press release that the city sent out earlier today. We are one of 21 communities out of 175 that applied for these funds. So it's, we're very excited.
Yeah, very nice work. That's great news.
Yeah,
It was either a
thank you.
great application, or we're really a mess and we need the help.
It was, I think,
A great application. There isn't a community in this country that doesn't need help with low-income housing.
yeah, and I think Kirk Lehman spent a significant amount of time on that grant application. It was a very well put-together application. I think it also, that application demonstrated the city's commitment to affordable housing, not only on the land use side, but on, our affordable housing fund, our affordable housing action plan, our fair housing study. It was kind of a combination of the things that we've shown a commitment to over the years and our commitment to do even more. So, yep, we're very excited. So,
Anything else?
that's it.
Does everybody know where Kirk went? I don't know if everybody knows. Ann, do you?
He's still with the city manager's
I saw
office.
him, I
Yeah.
saw
I
him
just
just
wanted
the
everybody
other
to
day,
know.
and it was like, you're not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
All right, any P and Z information from commissioners?
I just have a curiosity question because you know everything that's being built in Iowa City, right? What is finally going up across from Iowa City Landscaping?
Oh, Dunkin' Donuts? Is that Dunkin' Donuts?
Didn't Dunkin'
That's
Donuts used to
Slager.
be in the building next door?
Expansion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's,
so-
Oh, is it
They're
Slager
moving.
expansion? That could
No,
be.
Slager expansion's on
No, I think
Rupert.
that's further south.
It's Dunkin'.
Yeah.
At the old Godfather's.
Okay.
Party.
Okay,
Yeah.
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 Just wondered. Many memories of taking my children to Godfather's Pizza, and it's been
That was a great
empty a
place.
long time.
Yeah.
I guess I have a question. Right there on Boyram off of Gilbert, there's two big slabs of concrete, and it looks like they're going to build something. But I can't figure what they're going to do with these two big slabs, and I know nothing's come here.
They're huge,
Yeah.
They're
on
huge.
Waterfront and
like
Gilbert?
something that's not going to have a basement.
Waterfront
It's
Gilbert.
Boyer-
Isn't that a
it's
storage facility?
Yeah, that's moved in.
Yeah, that's on Waterfront near Southgate?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Southgate.
yeah. It's on Southgate.
Oh,
Road.
Southgate, yeah.
Okay, okay,
Right in front of Plum Supply.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a
storage facility,
it is?
yeah,
Any storage?
yeah.
Yeah, like we have a shortage of storage facilities
right.
in Iowa City.
Right.
Well, people can't afford houses, so they have to have storage facilities.
I just want to go on record again that I still think it's horrible that affordable housing is based on this HUD formula, and that for a family of four is $90,000 was what they base it on. And I think somewhere along the line, we need to bring it up again and maybe reevaluate what affordable is. Because if you look at a woman with 3 children and $90,000, unless she's a doctor or professor of good standings, she's not going to have $90,000. And that would still be affordable housing, low income. So I guess I would like to see it come back before this group and then city council to talk about what affordable actually is for Iowa City. And I know we've got a lot of people making a lot of money in Iowa City, but still, we got a lot of people living under the trees in Iowa City. So just for the record.
Thank you. Anything else from anybody? Ann, anything else?
Nope.
Motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Motion by Townsend, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Qualhorst? Discussion? All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify by saying nay. Hearing no nays, the motion is approved 5-0. We're adjourned, and remember, there'll be no meeting on July 3rd.